Woohoo! I love Nura. You can see Nura on the screen right now next to me. We are bringing you the latest episode of Famous and Fated. Nura is going to walk us through a mystery chart. We've done a couple of these episodes already, and it's designed to show you an astrology chart, what someone famous was born with. Nura is going to take us through a couple of components of it. I'm going to have you guess. So at any point while you watch this video, if you think you figured out who it is, I want you to comment and let us know what your guess is. And then once we get through some of the components of the birth chart, and I'll have Nura reveal who the mystery, famous, and fated chart is for this episode number 3. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Nura, and then I'm going to hand it over to her. So Nura Rachelle is an intuitive astrologer. We've done tons of collaborations together, so you may have seen her already as part of my bigger network. She draws from many ways of knowing and relating to the celestial cycles. Passionate about practical magic, she integrates energy healing, yoga, and intuitive skill building into her work with her clients. And her clients live everywhere, which I love that we can do that now. Our clients live everywhere. Relational resilience, sovereignty, and everyday soul realization is the core of Nura's offerings, and her focus on embodiment, simplicity, and daily ritual grounds cosmic wisdom in clarity of action. I always say, Nura, that when I talk to you and we have our conversations, I always feel like I'm getting a hug from the universe. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to have fun. We know that the famous and fated chart that we're looking at today is that of a gentleman. So we'll refer to it as he, his, him, and then put your guesses. So Nura, I'm going to have you go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Okay, let's share the chart of our mystery gent. And so whenever I'm reading a chart, I just like to start with the full, just looking at the full thing. What am I intuitively picking up? Already I'm seeing he's a pretty all over the place kind of person. You can see when there's a celestial body, and you'll notice I say that because I'm including some of the asteroids in here, and they're not planets, and neither is the sun or the moon. Those are luminaries, but you lump them all together, say celestial body. When there are celestial bodies spread out in the chart like this, it's a splay chart. And that means energy can kind of go everywhere. And on one hand, that could be really well-rounded. On another hand, it could be scattered, overwhelmed, kind of has his hands in every single different jar in a bit of a way. So looking at his sun sign, so sun in Cancer and Mercury in Cancer. Interestingly enough, his sun is also at 5 degrees, which is a Leonian degree according to degree theory. And that means he's here to be seen because Leo is very much here to shine bright. And he has his sun as planetary ruler of the South Node. South Node in Leo, second house, it's what he came in with. He came in with maybe financial support. He came in with a lot of energy and resources. And he's really here to shine light, maybe from his own unique vantage point with the sun in the first house. And he's kind of here to say something different, but something that is usually from the intention of nurturing, but can be a little bit bold and brash with his Mercury at 13 degrees, which is an Aries degree. So there's this kind of pioneering energy about how he communicates. So another fun fact, if we point out the sun in Cancer, so much of his life energy, his fuel, his current life purpose, we can also say, is maybe to populate the earth. He has a big family, and being a father is really an important part of his life. And it's also something that he's very seen for. He's very known for that. If we look over here at the North Node, and these are the nodes of his moon, by the way, and we're going to get to that moon in Virgo very shortly because that's very important. But he's got his North Node in Aquarius. It's also at 15 degrees, which is a Gemini degree. And it's conjunct Mars. So that's the action language, and that's also his masculinity. So the way he's really here to reach forward and kind of use his gifts that he's been given is to kind of wake up humanity, to kind of shake things up, to be a great disruptor, to be a liberator, maybe to make people feel uncomfortable. You might say some of the things that he's doing is really weird, or you might be very inspired by it. It kind of depends on how you relate to Aquarian energy, but he's very much an ambassador of Aquarian energy. And it's never something that we've perfected from day one, especially when it's our North Node. So he's kind of reaching more and more into this. He's like reaching farther and farther out into outer space and really grounding that into his masculinity. It's kind of like he would be the totem of Aquarian masculinity at this point in our culture. So a lot of new ideas, very inventive, and it's especially with the North Node in the 8th house, it's about sharing it with people. So he's been given a lot for himself, his own personal resources, 2nd house, but it's something about the humanitarian and actually philanthropy and giving it away, sharing it with others. And if you look a little bit at his track record, he's had a lot of ups and downs in business partnerships, we could say. So he's learning how to be in partnership. He's learning how to be that kind of rebel leader, essentially, who maybe, ruffles a few feathers of the status quo because that's Aquarius's job. So if we look at the planetary ruler of his North Node, that would be Uranus, also in an air sign in Libra at the root of his chart. So his very nature is disruptive. He's a liberator. If we go to his moon in Virgo, Virgo is highly analytical, incredibly detail oriented, almost hyper focused on what could go wrong. And in the end, it's all about wanting to improve things, wanting to make something better. So the shadow side of that is like, this is crap. This is not good enough. We need to make this completely different. And then the higher side is like, well, let's make this sacred. Not that I think he would necessarily use that word, although I don't know. But let's really do our best here. And there's also a strong degree of obsession with what he creates, like a hyper focus. And so that moon in Virgo can offer that, but so can that Jupiter in Scorpio in his 5th house, the house of creativity, also conjunct his Neptune, like highly intuitive, kind of future seeing, has big vision because Jupiter expands whatever he touches. And so it makes the vision really amplified, but it's retrograde, meaning he's here to do it differently. So again, we have that functioning of the Aquarian energy because Uranus actually is the ruler of retrograde function. So anytime you see a retrograde planet, there's a Uranian twist, trying to shake it up a little bit, kind of do something different. So he's here to create something different that's never been seen before. And you can see with the Scorpio component, this is really driving in that obsession with doing something different. There's a lot of commitment on a very high level to create something that will have an impact, that will maybe shatter realities, that will maybe kind of get people out of the box. Some people might find that a little bit scary, a little bit threatening, but definitely fun nonetheless. It's in the 5th house as well, and the 5th house of creativity, but it's also humor and living in the present moment. And he's very playful. You can definitely tell in how he shares himself out in the world. There's definitely a playfulness, kind of like a childlike energy, even though he's no longer a child, has many children himself. And now I would definitely want to look over here at the Saturn, Venus, and Ceres in Gemini, and also that 29-degree Gemini rising, if we're using the proper time for his chart, which there's a little bit of speculation, but we can definitely still work with the Saturn, Venus in Gemini. So Gemini, the sign of the twins. He's got a couple sets of twins and a set of triplets. That might be the giveaway for some of you.
I feel like they're all commenting and knowing who this is. So keep the comments coming in.
Great. Yes. I guess it depends on how much you're on social media.
Another hint.
Yeah. Yeah. So Saturn, where we have our mastery at 1 degree, which is an Aries degree, in Gemini. So here to really bring some new, fresh energy into the realm of networking and communications. And he's had multiple businesses that are centered on this theme. Definitely a point of leadership. And again, when we're working with these energies, we're never getting it right the first time. There's a learning curve to being a good leader. So, especially in the 11th house, this could be kind of an alienating factor. When he was young, he was bullied, and he was not always accepted in the group, probably because he just had a lot of very different ideas. Like, check out all this air. Usually air sign people tend to have very out there ideas, and depending on, their level of conviction. Well, he has a south node in Leo. He's probably pretty, confident. So he has a strong confidence and a conviction that can really rub people the wrong way if you have a different opinion. So he can stand for his opinion. So with that, connecting with the group, it's kind of a love or hate, that he's very polarized. People tend to really love him or really not love him, or just have an opinion, but no matter what, people would never deny that he's interesting. He's so interesting. He's fascinating. And that's very much the Gemini. Like, the Gemini wants to play, and there's kind of this like trickster energy, ability to shapeshift to meet the person, shapeshift to meet the moment. He's known for saying certain things and then backtracking a couple days later, which is also very Gemini, because it's almost like he's communicating through his stream of consciousness, which is also 12th house. So this is interesting. This is kind of pulling in the Venus piece, the stream of consciousness. He's just saying what he thinks, like very honestly, very authentically. And then he's like, oh, okay, I got to backtrack that if I see new evidence. Because something changed. It's mutable. And that's actually the nature of mutable signs. So Gemini being one of those, it's the ability to just be here right now and accept that everything could change tomorrow. So in that way, he's also prepared for like revolution. Like, he could just switch teams at any time because of that mutability. So that kind of adds to that shapeshifter energy. His Venus is also trine Mars. So there's a lot of relational energy here. He's kind of iconic, attractive, not necessarily in the traditional sense, but maybe in a lot of ways. But, for the power, especially with Mars in the 8th house, he's very powerful. So there's a lot of that attraction energy. He's been known for having multiple relationships with multiple people at once. That's very Gemini, at least having two or having a double life is Gemini, especially in the 12th house. There's actually a lot of people who have those kind of stories where you wouldn't even really know who they are if they have Gemini in the 12th house. Like, they could have a completely different life than what they're presenting. This is very secretive, very hidden. And remember, he's got that Jupiter in Scorpio. Oh, this is another important thing. He's part of the Scorpio Venus cycle. So he was born into the when Venus formed a star point in Scorpio. So he's got the Venus star point Scorpio with that layering of Venus and Gemini. He's a mystery. He's an enigma for sure.
I love all of it. Yeah, I want to ask you a question. And while I ask you this question, I'm going to ask everyone who hasn't commented yet to drop your guess as to who the mystery human is. Even though I would say I don't even know if he's human, but drop it in the comments. And while they take a few minutes or moments to comment here, going back to that South Node in Leo, my question as you look at this intuitively, do you think he cares what people think about him? It sounds like he's got a lot of confidence, but he's very much a disruptor. So he's going to have people that love him and people that do not like him at all. And I've been asked this by my clients. I've been asked about this specific person, whether I think their motives are pure or not. And so I feel like with that Aquarius energy and the humanitarian energy, North Node in Aquarius, that he really is trying to make things better, and he doesn't care if you like it or not. So is that an accurate summary?
I would say so. And again, arguments have been made that he's a clone, or, that the white hats are just using his image to put out, certain information about the Great Awakening and etc. And everything is possible. I would say definitely with that fixed strength in his chart with the North and South node, and then, the Mars in Aquarius. There's an arrogance, there's a confidence, and arrogance is not necessarily a bad thing. Again, it's just that conviction, like exactly like what you said, really not caring what people think, doing it anyways. And that's actually the strength. And it's actually said in a lot of different astrology lineages that the fixed signs are the ones who really are here to bring a huge awakening and huge adjustment to humanity. So not necessarily, going so far beyond just the sun sign, that's like the fuel, but these other big parts of the chart, particularly the masculinity and how he takes action in the world. That's, I would say, definitely part of showing people what else is possible more than anything, and being an inspiration. And I would say I've seen some of his, ways that he engages on social media, and even just with people out in the world who capture videos of him, shaking hands of the people. That's very Aquarian. Like he's not like separate in his ivory tower, like I'm better than you kind of thing. He's like, I'm here, like I'm grounded, I'm with the people. That's such an Aquarian energy. Not to say that there's not some other hidden motives, right? But you can, it could be very utilitarian what he does. And so you take the good and then accept, well, if he is a full human, humans are flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Okay, well, I think it's time to reveal who it is. And then I want you to talk about what's happening with his chart that's significant for today, March 10th. So let's go ahead and do the reveal. Drum roll. Okay, who is it, Nura?
If you didn't know.
Yeah, I think most people got that right. Elon Musk. I love the interpretation of the chart. Everything you said, I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I felt from his energy, just looking at him energetically. So it's fun to see it matched on the chart he was born with. So today, March 10th, there's something going on that is significant to his chart. So what is that?
Yeah, so you can see he's got Chiron here at 13 degrees of Aries. So it's Chiron, wounded healer, but also showing our sensitivity, and it's Aries. So there's something around perhaps how he is expressing himself, his uniqueness. He's definitely here to be seen for being different, for being an individual. And it's also at 13 degrees, which is an Aries degree. So this is a really strong pioneering focus here at the top of his chart, at his midheaven, if this is the time that we're going with. But in any case, this pioneering energy and being seen for that would be very important for him. And so right now he's got Vesta, Jupiter, Chiron, and recently Venus all on his Chiron. So he's going through a Chiron return that happens for everybody just after 50. And there's a lot of eyes on him. I mean, always, but there might be, just some conflict about exactly how, like what part of himself is he choosing to amplify, especially with Jupiter there. So big attention on what he's putting out in the world. And the 10th house is also leadership. So big attention on.
Oh, did we lose Nura? So 10th house, we have a lot going on. It looks like I'm going to see if she comes back here in a moment.
Yeah,
so that 10th house.
Yeah, it's pretty stacked. So very visible for him right now. And he's also had this Mars in Gemini for the past long while, really activating in his 12th house, which is arguably a place of self-undoing sometimes, and lots of back and forth, but also how we get to really refine our connection with true service. So who knows, maybe we'll see some shifts in ownership of things. And I saw something really funny on his Instagram saying like, who should be the next CEO of Twitter? Like,
Yeah.
press yes or no if you want me to be the CEO. Just like really interesting. It seems like that might be even how he makes a lot of decisions. Just like, what's the pulse of the people? And yeah, that's very Venus in Gemini in the 12th house. So it was really interesting.
Oh, very cool. Well, we've learned a lot about Elon Musk, and one of the things that I probably am anticipating is everyone that's watching this may just go ahead and restart the video and watch it again now that they know who it is, so they can hear all the story in detail about Elon Musk. But I didn't even know, I knew he had a lot of kids, but I didn't know he had twins and a set of triplets. And so I think most people have probably learned something new about Elon today.
Yeah, for sure. Two sets of twins and a set of triplets, and then three babies just recently born in the past year to different women. And so there's a lot of this. He's holding down the Gemini really
Oh,
well.
mercy.
And that's
Yeah,
like the women he's attracting as well, because that is the attraction and who he's attracted to. So
fascinating. So, one last question as we start to wrap things up. In terms of where we feel he might be headed in the future, things he might be doing, with the Uranus that you brought up earlier, do you feel like he's going to continue to be futuristic and continue to be a rebel and a disruptor? Do you think that that is, and do you think it's going to increase as he gets older?
I would say absolutely. I can't see it going anywhere. It's pretty rooted in his chart, this grand air trine. And I think, especially when Pluto enters Aquarius, there's going to be even more eyes on Aquarius energy. And you could say Aquarian leaders or Aquarian rebels, Aquarian influencers, whatever we want to call it. So, definitely, I would say only intensifying. And I don't know, I think about a lot of the older people that I know. It's like they tend to get more brash and more confident the older they get, right? Because they're like, well, I have nothing to lose. I noticed he said something like, I want to die on Mars, just not on impact. That's like
Oh
a
my God.
pretty famous quote. So that's I guess that's his life goal. So I don't see him getting any less Aquarian.
Not if he's going to say things like that.
No.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. So whether he's an alien or he's a clone or who knows? I mean, I think we're just going to be seeing a lot of things come out in this next decade that will really probably blow a lot of our minds. So, Elon, whatever you are, whoever you are, thanks for being on Earth now to be a disruptor and to get us to think in a very Aquarian or Uranus way. So, is there anything else about Elon you want to add before we close out?
I definitely agree. I think, like, whether you love him or don't, that he's definitely opening something up in the conversation around freedom of speech and censorship. You know, he's quoted for saying something like, Twitter. He says Twitter is arguably already the least wrong source of truth on the internet, but we obviously still have a long way to go. And so he's in that way that's kind of showing the Moon in Virgo humility, but with that still that drive to create a space for truth. And that's really important. Like, we all get it wrong, and I definitely can't speak to his true motives on anything, but just from what I can see, I see what he's doing as at least getting people to have these conversations, which is always great, because we need to be able to feel safe to have conversations even if we disagree, and the Gemini can hold space for that. So can the Aquarius, so can the Libra, can hold space for different opinions. And that's how anything changes, right? If we're afraid to talk and show up authentically, just even if we're wrong, if we're afraid to be wrong, we won't grow. So in any case, I think he's definitely a role model in that sense, however and whoever he is.
Yeah, we've got a lot of Aquarian energy, as you mentioned, that's coming into the forefront. So we're going to have a lot of Elon, I feel like,
I think so. Yeah.
and other kinds of Aquarian energy and leaders, as you mentioned already. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's very inspiring, I think, to a lot of kids, kids who want to get into different, engineering and inventive streams. And so there's something just like he's showing, even with his schooling. He went to a couple different schools, and then he was about to do a PhD in physics, and then like he dropped out 2 days later saying, I think the internet's better. I think the internet and working there has more space and room for growth and change. So he's just very he's honest and authentic, and I think that is showing people, hey, there is a different way. Like, I'm not knocking, getting a PhD in physics, but there is a different way. And when information is available to everybody for free or close to free or more accessible, and that's very much, I would say, a goal and a driving force behind Aquarian energy, it does, I think, create way more opportunity. And of course, it has its shadow. Everything does, but at least the high points of that are new options, new avenues.
Beautiful, beautiful. Nura Rachelle, you brought a lot of wisdom to Elon's chart today. I enjoyed hearing your interpretation of it. Go ahead and tell people where to find you on social media and where your website's at.
Sure. It's at Nura Rachelle on Instagram, Nura Rachelle Astrology on YouTube, and my website's nurarachelle.com. So keeping it
So
simple for you
easy.
all.
Nura Rachelle. Go find her online, connect with her on social media, and go check out her website for all of the amazing things that she's got going right now in the world of astrology. And I'm sure we'll have another conversation here one of these days. I'd love to have you back again. And for all of my work and information on what I've got cooking, go over to spiritandspark.com, and on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Of course, it's Spirit and Spark. Trying to keep it easy, everybody. All right, Nura Rachelle, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, Dallisa.
Thanks, and thanks to everybody who watched.